And our next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. And let me stand for that. Good. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Next order of business would be a review of the minutes of the last meeting. And we have the Honorable Madam Young for that. Very brief review.
I would move to approve the minutes. They were very accurate and brief. They just reviewed our discussion and the delegation support of the assisted outpatient treatment program and just a brief review of other pending legislation.
Okay, that's a review of the February 28th, 2022 meeting.
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. All in favor, aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Took care of that. Thank you, Delegate Young. All right, new business. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the pleasure of having Congressman Trone with us. In the past, I've witnessed that individuals say, the person that's doing the introduction. This person needs no introduction because of who he is, and then goes on for 20 minutes to introduce the person. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go right to Congressman David Trone, and sir, you have the floor.
Well, thank you for that kind.
Sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that kind and elaborate introduction. I appreciate that. Brevity is a wonderful thing in life, and having 3 years in politics now, it's pretty damn scarce. So we could use more of it. I'm with you. I will give you a quick update, answer any questions, and I'll be out of your hair this morning. First of all, I'm at home today. I'm in my casual outfit. As you notice, it's not my usual suit and tie. I had a knee replacement up at Johns Hopkins, and I've been recovering from that. And each day I get a little bit stronger, and should be back out and about next week. But not a if any of you guys had a knee replacement yet?
Yeah.
No.
Don't go there if you don't have to. Wow.
Really?
No, it's going to be great, but it's just a lot of heavy physical therapy and a tremendous amount of pain. It's such a big incision area. But the physical therapy is key every other day. So anyway, we're on a good track, but want to give you a quick update on that. You guys have all been great partners. I want to thank you on constituent services, everybody. And I like to make a call out across the aisle, if you don't mind, to Mr. Delegate Pippi. Mr. Pippi, thank you. Especially Sonny is just really pleased with all the work we've been able to do together to help on constituent services. We're all part of Team Maryland. And, I pride myself as a business guy. And I said that day one, I'm going to have damn good constituent services and try to have the best of anybody. And that's how I operate in my company. And it still operates that way. And that's how I feel about how I owe it to my folks in the district. And I don't give a damn if they're Republicans, Democrats, Independents. I could care less, obviously. So I love working with you guys in this stuff. And thanks for bringing me things and being a great partner. So thank you, Jesse.
Well done, Jesse.
Okay.
Well done.
Yep. And if we could get that more help in the even upstream up to our U.S. senators, that would be great. And more we can work as a team, the better. I know inflation is atop everybody's mind. There's no silver bullet. It's going to be here for the rest of the election. I don't think there's much we can do about it at this point in time with the war. But one thing that did get done was the America Competes Act, $42 billion, really going to help address supply chain issues, which are a big part of this inflation train wreck we have in the country. But with food, it's going to continue to move. and gasoline. We've all seen it. I'm trying to figure out if there's any other good ideas out there, but there don't seem to be too many floating around. So let's talk a second about a success, and that's the bipartisan. I stress the word bipartisan infrastructure bill. As you know, Maryland has a C for CAT, or catastrophe, by the American Society of Civil Engineers on our infrastructure. This bill brings $6 billion to Maryland. $6 billion. You guys are going to have to help us spend it, and spend it where. I'm advocating aggressively in a whole bunch of different places about the wastewater treatment facility in Brunswick. I was up there right before I had my knee surgery. Spent a long time with Mayor Brown. The water is brown in many places and many days. The treatment plant was very close to overflowing into the Potomac River. It's an EPA debacle waiting to happen. So we're trying to get, and I testified just 2 days ago before Energy and Water Appropriations Committee on the importance of this facility. And the same with the one in Boonesboro and Keedysville. They also testified about that the other day before the Appropriations Committee on Energy and Water. So I'm working on both of those, and I'm hopeful there'll be some things that I can make a difference. Route 15 expansion. I drive 15 all the time. I don't need to tell you anything about it. The law's got $4.1 billion for highways. We're working with Larry Hogan's administration. I have a call next week with the new Secretary of Transportation. I had a great relationship with Slater. As you know, he and I toured the district together, looked at all the roads. I had the 15 expansion fixed. The 4 miles in Frederick is what I'm after. That 4 miles got missed in Larry's plan. The appropriations bill authorizing this passed the House, but when it went through the Senate, they took it out. So I think we were halfway home. I thought we were going to get the whole way home, but Richard Shelby and some of the senators had a different viewpoint, and we lost. Anything you can do to keep it top of mind with Chris and Ben. It's top of mind for me. I'm on appropriations, but Chris is on budget. So we got to keep it top of mind because we lost this one in the Senate and we had it. Farm Bureau, broadband expansion. We had a great visit January 26th in Frederick with the Frederick County Farm Bureau. And we had the talk with all the folks around the round table was broadband. That is in the infrastructure bill. It's going to really help monitor crop, soil, health, real time. And this will be a big win for our farmers across Frederick. Also, besides fixing Brunswick, Keedysville, Boonesboro, the roads, we've got to continue to build climate resilient infrastructure. So anyway, I'm excited about the bill. And the key is, how does the 6th district and Frederick get our fair share or more? And that's the mission. That's my mission. Next point would be back to the omnibus bill. I'm pleased to say Congress, 5 months into the fiscal year, 5 months is gone, started October 1, we finally passed the goddamn budget. Now that's pretty pathetic. That's embarrassing. If any of us ran that way, we'd be out of business. It's stupidity. So we're back in appropriations meeting again for 23 budget. We're doing outreach already on our community project funding. All that passed. We're excited about that. Frederick, we did really good. As you know, we're $500,000 for the flood mitigation on Mater, $1.5 million for the Asian American Center in Frederick, And what I was really pleased about, as you know, was $850,000 for the Behavioral Health Crisis Stabilization Center, right here in Frederick. And I know that means a lot to everybody on the call, and it's an area we really got to do better. So I thought we really did well in the community funded projects. That means I want to do better in 23. Sonny's talking to groups all over the district. And, if folks in Frederick, let's get them into the process with Sonny on things that you need to get done. What needs to get done. Republican areas, Democrat areas, I could give a damn. Let's figure out how to get results for Frederick County. That's what we're here for, results. And I'll work with Raskin, and I partner with him and suggest to him what he needs to have on his list, and to make sure our lists are appropriate, so we hit different things. And then I advocate for Jamie's stuff and appropriations to get that stuff over the top also. So, it's key, it's bipartisan, and that's what I love. So Sonny put a note up on the chat I just saw, so you can follow up on that. Last thing is the State of the Union. As some of you might remember, I spoke about a few times when President Biden was running for election. He went to my house. He was actually in this room, my library, before the big fundraiser at my home. And he asked me, he said, David, what's important to you? And I said, sir, I don't need a job. I don't need anything, but I need your help in two things that the American people need. And that's addiction and mental health. And I know in this group, Karen's been leading the charge in Annapolis on mental health, and all of you are supporting, I know, both mental health and addiction, because it's hit Frederick just like it's hit everywhere else in the United States. And when I spoke to the president directly about a month ago, the last time, into the White House twice on two different bills that I wrote that were signed on addiction and mental health, no surprise there, both bills. But I said to the president, and we had a chance to talk one-on-one, because there was a very small group. And I said, sir, when COVID's done, Mr. President, we need to move to mental health and addiction, like we spoke about. And he could not have been more agreeable, more excited. He repeated to me the word bipartisan like 4 or 5 times. And that's what President Biden, that's what he kept saying. These are two things we can get behind. They're bipartisan. They can pull our country together. And he was genuinely excited. And I could tell it about these two areas. And unfortunately, the damn war in Ukraine sucked all the oxygen out of the room. But on the State of the Union, after he finished Ukraine, the president came back with his unity agenda. And the unity agenda, item 1, addiction. Item 2, mental health. So there was our 2 items on the president's unity agenda, a bipartisan agenda. Item 1 and item 2, just what we've been talking about, I've been talking about, you all have been talking about, and we lost 100,000 Americans, every one of them with moms and dads, brothers and sisters, friends, in the last 12 months. And we've now lost over 1 million people to overdoses since 1999. All I can say is, shame on us. If we lost 1 million people, you'd think there'd be a national uprising. You'd think the whole country would go crazy and say, how do we fix this? But it hasn't happened. But now we're starting to get some traction. The president's put it out there. It's my Republican friends, and I've got a lot of Republican friends in Congress and the Senate. They're on board, and, we're going to move and continue to make progress. I've got 70 bills out of my bipartisan addiction and Mental Health Task Force, which I'm co-chairman. We have 140 members, and 70 some of those are Republicans. And every bill we do is bipartisan. That's our rule. That's a rule. Every bill, bipartisan. End of story. And we're pushing about 20 of those right now through Energy and Commerce, a couple in Judiciary, and we're working as a team. We've got a bunch that have passed the House. They're over in the Senate. We're working with our partners over there. You know, people like Rob Portman, who's been a phenomenal supporter. Grassley's been very good at these issues. So we got some good Republican teammates. So we're going to keep banging on it. And the last thing I'll mention is I am proud to say our commission on combating fentanyl, which Speaker Pelosi appointed me to, along with 3 other members. One member appointed by Minority Leader McCarthy, Republican Fred Upton of Michigan, who's become a great friend of mine. Fred and I do a lot of stuff together, a good man. And then also Senator Markey from Boston and Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas. And then we have members of all 7 federal agencies, DOD, DEA, Treasury, State, Intelligence Community. Everybody that matters is on this commission, and 4 outside experts, former head of DEA, Republican head under Bush of DEA, Karen Tandy, awesome member of our commission. She's been phenomenal. And so we finally did our report, took over a year in the making. We went to Mexico City. We went to the border. We talked about cartels. We had more intelligence briefings than I can imagine. And I was co-chair with Senator Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton and I don't agree on a lot of numbers. We talked so many times, I can't tell you. While I'm a moderate Democrat, he's a very conservative Republican. And we agreed early on, we were going to make sure we made this commission bipartisan and that we did things that we could all agree on. And we got 76 recommendations, every one of them bipartisan, unanimity among the entire commission. And now Senator Cotton, my partner, and I are working to get these things into the Senate, into the House, and the executive branch. So, you know, this gives you an example how Democrats and Republicans can bury any kind of hatchet and, damn it, work together and be team members to move the country forward. So I found it very gratifying. And the report, we're not going to let it sit on the bookshelf. We'll get a copy of it out to all of you. It's in hard, softback form. We'll get a copy out. I know it's something you'll be interested in. And at the end of the day, it focuses on what we can do to stop demand. Because Senator Cotton and I both agreed that we want to support law enforcement all the way. We want to support the DEA all the way. We want to support Customs and Border Patrol all the way. He and I are all in. But the Mexican government has given up on trying to stop the fentanyl in the United States. The top of government, from the President Obrador down, have adopted a policy called hugs, not bullets, toward the cartels. That's hard to believe, but that's what they have done. Hugs, not bullets. And you know what? After spending time in Mexico City with the top people at their DEA, their Attorney General's office, their DOJ, I understand why. 36,000 people were murdered last year in Mexico. 1% were solved. Over 100 politicians running for the equivalent of Mexico's Congress were murdered. They really have a choice in government. Take the corruption or stay silent, or they, their families, will and have been dead. And they've made the decision to not be corrupt, but at the same time, They want to survive. And Senator Cotton and I realize this. So we're going to do all we can to stop the supply. Absolutely. We got a lot of good things in there, but we got to stop the demand. And that is the key. So that's my report. I have to take a couple questions and I'll be out of your hair.
Congressman, speaking of the border, I saw on television this morning another excerpt on that border crisis. And what are we doing, Republican or Democrat? It's not a Republican or Democrat issue. A border crisis is a border crisis. What are we doing from your perspective down there in Congress to try to stop that flow?
Well, I'll tell you, we haven't done enough and we failed. I mean, if we don't have secure borders, how do you have a country? The country has to have a secure border. And we could argue all day, is a wall an answer? Is the answer technology? The answer is complicated as the Dickens. But at the end of the day, we are in complete agreement. We've got to have a secure border. The Biden administration has not done enough, has not focused enough, has not been successful, and we have not got what we need to get at that border. And, you know, I can't speak for them, but I'm a person that believes in secure borders. And, you know, that's something that, you know, we need to turn our attention to much, much stronger in a much better way. And, you know, obviously Ukraine is, as I said earlier, sucked all the oxygen out of the room. But, you know, meeting with the good people at the Customs and Border Patrol, I've been to McAllen, I've been to El Paso twice now, and it's a train wreck. It's a train wreck. And we've not achieved it. We didn't get it before, we haven't got it now. And, you know, we've got to do a mix of things, and whether it's physical barriers, it's drones, it's technology on the border to see the movement of people, which we have great technology. Some of their technology, which we visited down there, was like, holy cow. And a bunch of our people went out on a night patrol with CBP at night and saw how the whole thing works at night. And we got a great people down there in Customs and Border Patrol, great people. We had a huge roundtable with them. And what we did afterwards is we interviewed all of them privately, individually, and got from them privately, where they're more willing to speak, some things they'd like to see happen in funding and word, language, and appropriations. And those are things we're working on. What's worked for me in my life has been talk to the people that are involved most directly in the problem. And that's CBP and DEA. And they had a lot of things to say. And, you know, they asked for confidentiality because a lot of times they say something, their superiors might not like it. So there's a lot of things that good common sense and ideas we got. I mean, one thing I can talk about was give you an idea is when COVID hit, their budget is based on traffic across the border. All border traffic stopped on cars. That meant their budget was trashed. So we took money away from them. At the same time, the cartels still had to get all those drugs across the border, but they couldn't do it through vehicles. Passenger vehicles account for 90%. And all the intelligence briefings in the world will tell you the same damn number. It's 90% come by car because you can't find it. The fentanyl is so damn small and so potent that they have 73 million vehicles go across that border. 2 pickup truck loads. I've got a Ford 150 that I drive. We could put 2 loads of fentanyl in my Ford, and that's all we need, slightly overloaded, to fill America's habit for fentanyl for the whole year. 2 vehicles, 2 trips out of 73 million. And so they talked about, we took all the money away. I mean, how stupid are we? We were pretty damn stupid. So anyway, those are the type of things where we can't get out of our way sometimes. but I was very impressed by the commitment of all the people there. But solutions are tough and few and far between, but we sure agree that we got to get the goddamn thing under control. It's outrageous.
Congressman, I'll make one quick point, turn it over to this august group. You mentioned the wall. I was in Berlin before the wall went up, 1963, I believe, and East Berlin, Communist Berlin, was losing something like 10,000 people a month, moving from Communist East to Freedom West. And once that wall went up, it stopped. So my only point is the walls work, not necessarily in a positive sense or a negative sense, but damn it, walls will work. On that point, to the group, I know.
Well, can I respond to that briefly? No, I see your point on that. And while I'm not a supporter of a wall over thousands of miles, but I will say in the Berlin situation, I was in Berlin in 1976, and I went through Checkpoint Charlie. I went on the other side of the wall and traded money on the black market and did all the things you do when you're a college student studying abroad. And that wall did indeed work. And the people crossing that border went to zero, and not zero, but went down very dramatically. And I concur with you on your point on that one, because in that case, that wall did actually work. But there was an awful lot of, it's a little bit different situation when we have such a huge border that makes it such a challenge. And it's pretty big border versus just the city of Berlin.
Yeah.
But good point, though. It's a good point.
Delegate Louis Young.
Thank you, but Delegate Pepe had his hand up before I did.
I'm sorry, Jesse, excuse me. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Delegate Karen Lewis Young. So I'll try to be brief. Congressman Trone, good to see you in the delegation here. There's definitely a lot of issues, days of conversation about it, but I'm just going to pick a couple that are important to at least Frederick. As you know, Frederick County was the fastest growing county in the state. We are a commuter town, unfortunately, in many respects. I saw that you're trying to put an effort to get a post office in Urbana, so I wanted to get the status on that. And then the second thing, I know you're not on the committee in Congress. I know that Sarbanes is. I know your buddy, what's his name, from Texas is. What can we do to get these gas prices down? I mean, in Maryland, we just passed an emergency bill to reduce the sales tax on gas, which should hopefully save about 30 cents a gallon. It's not enough. And, the most important issue, as a businessman, I mean, you'll know this, when people are going to fill up their tanks and it's $100, they're going to the grocery store and it's 20% higher. I mean, these things are real issues. And so I just wanted to know, because I feel like our energy policies are generally a federal issue, because a lot of the energy comes from abroad. And I'm sure you're aware of what's going on, but if you could just update us, one, on the post office, which is an easy one, and then two, on what are we doing about these gas prices, because unfortunately we rely on gas, we rely on oil, and so, people need relief. So if you could help us out with that.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The big problem is the energy. When you spend $100 to fill up your car and it costs me that much, it's a regressive tax on our working people who pay these higher gas prices. So it's a really big deal because it affects so many people that don't have that extra disposable income that others do. And so we've got to address this, but long term, the answer is certainly fuel efficient cars. We've got to drive that heavier. The Biden administration is driving fuel efficiency, electric cars. Those are places where we're going to move. We try to drive renewables. Renewables are getting a bigger and bigger piece every day. Personally, I like nuclear. I think nuclear has proven to be very, very safe, very, very clean, but phenomenally safe. If you look at France, They've got about 40% of their energy is nuclear, and it's been that way. But this country, the hard left, I'm afraid to say, my party, has sunk nuclear. And I've been on the top of, I've toured nuclear power plants. I stood right on the top of a nuclear reactor. One of my closest friends is a nuclear engineer. And I've spent many, many hours with him talking about nuclear and trying to learn about it. And God damn it, it's safe. And the smaller nuclear plants they can build now, these compact type plants can get quicker approval times. They're a better way to go. But I'm afraid there's a lot in this country that because of 3 Mile Island, and I grew up right in the shadow of 3 Mile Island, and I actually remember the day when it happened, clear as a bell. I remember that day because it was such a big deal, where I grew up in Pennsylvania. So that's one thing we haven't addressed, which we should be addressing. We've got to realize we've got to be energy independent to a way better degree we are. Between Russia and the Arab countries, two groups that are not our friends. Saudi Arabia is, I've said this over and over in public. I was on the foreign affairs. They have a leader, MBS, that is a murderer, and he is not our friend. And they are not going to do anything to help us other than try and do what a cartel does, drive prices up, maximize their profits. So if we're going to continue to be dependent on OPEC and Russia on oil, we're stupid. And we got to drive our own energy in this country, develop our own energy here, keep it clean as we can. And there's always trade-offs in life. We're not going to get 100% every day. We got to trade off as our technology gets better. But so it's better consumption, less consumption with the cars, the trucks, the buses, etc. I saw the Frederick electric, buses you have. We talked about up in Frederick. All these little things compete together, but I don't see in the short term gas prices coming down. I'd like to see the federal excise tax removed. That's a little bit of something. It would help give some people some near-term relief. Biden could do that. But I'm just going to be frank with you. I think this inflation is here to stay. It's just not going anywhere fast. It's driving costs up for all businesses across the country. I asked my CEO what's happening in this area, and he was very clear to me. He says, David, we're getting hammered, and we're passing it on to the consumer. And I bet you every CEO in the country is doing the same. So I don't have good news.
Well, I hope you, and I'll leave you with this because I don't want to take anyone else's time. I hope you can be, and you've been a champion on some of these other issues. I hope you can be a champion on some of these pricing issues too, the gas and the inflation. And I appreciate you saying that, some of the folks on the far left are kind of impeding some of that. But it would be helpful if you can, be a strong voice, maybe talk some sense into some folks on both sides of the aisle, but that would be helpful.
Well, I'll tell you, Delegate, there's just one problem we have in Congress. We don't have enough business people with common sense. And when I had to explain depreciation to the caucus, that was pretty scary when we fixed the depreciation bill to help small businesses and restaurants. And we fixed that a few years ago. So we need more people that are about creating jobs. We create jobs. That's what matters. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Sonny, tell us about Urbana, where that's at. You've been all over that.
Sure, I'll be happy to. Thanks for the question, Delegate Pippi. Appreciate that. So right now, the only appropriate response we've gotten from the post office so far is that they're, quote, looking into it right now. So we're pushing them right now to see how fast they can start doing an analysis. Luckily, Congress just passed the postal reform bill, which is going to be giving them more funds. And we're using that essentially as a carrot to say, hey, look, we did our job. Can you guys please do it, help out our constituents? I'm going to follow up with you and actually the entire delegation with an email after this as well. there's actually something I would encourage you direct your constituents to. There is a public way that they can advocate for a post office themselves. What we found with research in the past is that when you get a new post office, the number one thing that really helps is community support. So the more people that send in letters, send in notes to the post office of community support for this will only help our cause. So I'll send that to you guys all via email to your staff. So if you could share that widely, heavily encourage it. I could really use the help from you guys.
Thank you very much. Look, we have a problem on our hands that's called time. We also have a BLS policy analyst, Michael Sinelli, who's going to be with us. And I want to have enough time so that he can present his case. So Senator Young, Karen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to introduce my new Chief of Staff, Chelsea Cotta. She is with us today. Say hello to Chelsea. She'll be a key interface for all of you. While I'm talking about staff, Congressman, I want to compliment you for your outstanding staff. In my 12 years as an elected official, I have never worked with a group of congressional support staff as responsive as yours. In particular, a shout out to Sonny Holden, always gets back to me immediately. So you hold on to that Holden. He's a great guy. Two issues I want to bring to your attention. One very important one that you helped not only my staff, but all of Maryland with, and then another one on the horizon. I have been advocating for years to try to get people who have developmental disabilities the support and the services that they need to stay in their homes and not be institutionalized. The state of Maryland was pushing back on that, saying that the things that they were asking for were not acceptable to the federal waiver. Your staff got us an opinion to show and prove that all the things that these most vulnerable people among us were asking for would be covered by the federal waiver. It made all the difference in the world. And for the first time in 3 years, that bill is moving forward. And we're going to be able to help people with disabilities. So thank you for that. Another bill, going to be asking for your help. It's moving now. I was the lead sponsor in the House for the 988 suicide hotline bill, mandate by the federal government as of last July. However, they didn't send us any money with the mandate. So unlike other states, Maryland is not going to put a tax on your cell phone or your landline. Our legislative body has come up with 5.5 of the 10 million we need. So we'll be reaching out to your office to see if we can get some more federal support. And I just wanted to put that on your radar.
All right, thank you. Senator Young.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Amplify what Delegate Lewis Young said about the support of your staff. We really appreciate that. And we hope anything you can do to keep pushing Route 15 is very important. I mean, that's a parking lot in the morning and evenings, and it's real tough. Energy. We need to look at comprehensive energy policies, but the one thing that constantly gets overlooked are zero energy houses, which is happening in a number of European countries now. They don't require oil, gas, very minimal electric. They actually supply more electric than they take. They just need it at certain times. It's a cheaper way, it's an efficient way, and it is a very environmental way of doing it. And we have not put near the stress on that we should. I want to touch on immigration and the subject about the walls. You know, the Berlin Wall, that was to keep freedom away from people. It wasn't a good wall. And that's why Reagan said, take that wall down. But we need secure borders, but we've got to look at immigration policy. Just this morning, I saw an older lady from Ukraine who has a family here. I think it was a son and his wife. She lost her house. She has no place to stay. They offered to take her and we turned her down. We've got to have policies to let people in some legal way. Many of the people that come to the border in Mexico come and do the proper thing and get treated just like they're trying to, run through the wall or cross the border. So an important part of the whole thing is just not how we keep them out, that we need to secure borders. We need an immigration policy that lets people in. That's how all of us got here. And there's got to be a reasonable policy to deal with that. And I hope, you can look at that aspect of it and not just the secure part, though that's important.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We do as well. And now I'd like to, just a minute, please. I'd like to introduce, if I may, the DLS policy analyst, Michael Sinelli, because time is not on our side. And he's going to talk about Frederick County state aid. So, Michael?
Great, thank you, members of the committee, delegation. Thanks for having me. I also just wanted to quickly apologize for, I guess we mixed up a couple weeks ago where we were supposed to do this previously. I realize we're short on time, so I'll try to make this brief. Hopefully I can share. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see this screen. You should all, I think, have a packet. It's state aid to local governments for fiscal 2023. I'm going to start briefly on page 1. And page 1 shows that state aid accounts for a significant portion of the state budget. State aid accounts actually for about 35% of general fund expenditures and 26% of all state funds. In comparison, state agencies, state agencies account for about 41% of general fund expenditures, and entitlement payments account for about 22%. Page 2 shows state aid by governmental entities. The vast majority of state aid is targeted towards public schools, which receive about $7.1 billion. County municipal governments receive less than 10% of total state aid, or in fiscal 23, about $841 million. Overall, total state aid will total $9.2 billion in fiscal 23, which represents an increase of 4.3%, or $383 million over fiscal 22 amount. Page 3 shows the amount of state aid provided to each local government. Frederick County will receive about $400 million in state aid in fiscal 2023. This is a 12% increase over the year before, which equates to $44.2 million. On a per capita basis, Frederick County ranks 11th with state aid totaling around $1,500 per resident, which is about the same as the statewide average. Skipping ahead to page 9, this shows the education enhancements proposed by the administration for public school funding. The administration provided an additional $57.3 million in hold harmless grants under the compensatory aid program to offset declines in the free and reduced price meal count. Since Frederick County funding under this program did not decrease from the prior year, the school system was not eligible for a hold harmless grant. The administration also provided $68.1 million for full day pre-kindergarten programs that exceeded the requirements under the Blueprint Plan. The administration provided per student funding regardless of family income. Under the Blueprint Plan, full-day pre-kindergarten funding is targeted to the lowest income families at 300% of the federal poverty level. Frederick County will receive 4.4 million of this additional funding. When the proposed state budget was introduced in January, the governor, the administration did not fund certain education enhancements, which were supposed to provide additional funding to Baltimore City and Prince George's County. However, the governor submitted a supplemental budget that included full funding for the Education Effort Index. Skipping ahead to page 14, this shows the state aid to county and municipal governments. Page 14 shows the state funding for the police aid formula. Frederick County will receive 2.6 million in funding under the existing police aid formula. Page 15 shows the various factors that affect police aid funding. The majority of state funding under the police aid formula is based on population density. More urbanized jurisdictions with a higher population density receive a higher per capita grant amount. A small component of the formula, which is about 4.3% of overall funding, is targeted to municipalities based on the number of sworn officers in each municipality. Page 16 shows the funding for a police enhancement as proposed by the administration. The proposed budget includes 45 million in additional 45.9 million in additional funding for police aid formula, which is 1.9 of which is targeted to law enforcement agencies in Frederick County. The allocation is based on county population and the number of municipal sworn officers. Under this enhancement, Baltimore City receives $8 million. Page 19 shows the funding for the fire and rescue aid. Frederick County will receive $600,000 in fire and rescue aid. Each county's funding is based on their share of property tax accounts relative to the statewide total. Each county is guaranteed a minimum of 2% of the total, or $15 million. So the minimum amount any county can receive is $300,000. Page 20 shows the funding under the health formula. Frederick County will receive 3.4 million in health grants in fiscal 23. Statewide, all counties will receive $74.9 million, which is a $1 million increase from fiscal 2022. Page 24 shows the allocation of highway user revenues for fiscal 2023. Frederick County will receive 8.1 million in highway user revenues, which is about a $500,000 or 6.6% increase over the prior year. County municipal share is based on road mileage and vehicle registrations. Frederick County government will receive 3.3 million of this amount, and municipalities in Frederick County will receive 4.8 million. Baltimore City receives 170 million, which accounts for 61.5% of total highway user revenues. This is mainly because the state doesn't really do any road maintenance within the city of Baltimore, except for portions of I-95. Now, jumping ahead to page 31, I'm going to talk about state aid to education. So on page 31 shows the total level of state funding for public schools in fiscal 2023. State aid to Frederick County Public Schools will total $361 million. Page 32 breaks down direct aid and teacher retirement payments. Frederick County Public Schools will receive $328.7 million in direct aid, which goes directly to the public school system, and another $32.1 million in teacher retirement payments, which goes to the state retirement agency. On a per pupil basis, Frederick County direct aid totals around $7,500, which is the 13th highest amount in the state. This ranking is due to the fact that 75% of direct education aid is allocated based on local wealth. Frederick County has the 13th highest per pupil wealth measure in the state. Page 33 shows the percent increase in per pupil direct aid and per pupil total aid. For Frederick County, per pupil direct education aid increased by 9.6% in fiscal 2023 compared to the statewide average of 5.4%. This is the fourth highest increase in the state. Total per pupil education aid increased by 7.4%, which is significantly higher than the statewide average of 4.2%. Page 34 shows the primary factors that drive the increases in education aid, which are student enrollment and local wealth. FTE student enrollment in Frederick County increased by 4.2%, which is the highest increase in the state. Local wealth per pupil increased by 0.4%, which is the second lowest increase in the state. The combination of these two factors results in Frederick County realizing the highest increase in education aid, which is significantly higher than the statewide average. In comparison, Garrett County, which has the highest decrease in student enrollment and the fourth highest increase in local wealth, realizes the lowest growth in education aid. Page 35 shows the level of state funding under the foundation program, which is the main education funding formula. Frederick County will receive $217.1 million, or around $5,000 per pupil, which is the 12th highest amount in the state. Page 36 shows the funding under the blueprint initiatives. Frederick County will receive $12.6 million, including $1.8 million for concentration of poverty grants, $6.8 million for full-day pre-kindergarten, and $2.1 million for supplemental instruction. Page 37 shows the state aid for student targeted populations.
Mr. Sinelli,
Sure.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're due on the floor in about 7 minutes. The bells are going to ring shortly. Can
Okay.
you give us a summary?
Well, generally, I mean, the rest of it, you can flip through. I mean, you should have access to all this. The highlights really are, the education, like I said, education funding starts on page 31. If you want more in-depth information on any of this, you can feel free to contact us, and we're happy to provide more specific information. The other information sort of is what I touched on before, the police aid, highway user, that information is all available there. And like I said, we are happy to answer any specific questions if and can funnel any questions directly to us. And so we're happy to provide any additional information if you need it.
Thank you, Mr. Sinelli.
Sure.
Sorry, Mr. Sinelli, very much.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's perfectly fine.
All right. Any other comments before we move on?
Move to adjourn.
Second? I guess we got it. In the words of General Douglas MacArthur, these proceedings are closed. Amen.